Today we're going to look at notes covering contextual word problems. Now, the biggest thing to understanding expressions in contextual problems are to try to figure out whether you're going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Below is a list of keywords and their meanings. This list does not include every situation you might see, but it does include the most common examples. So look at section A right here. You see the words and, increase, more than, plus, sum, and total. And then here are some examples written in expressions right here. And then how to write it as with numbers. So if you see 6 and 8, that means 6 plus 8. And you can read through these. Remember, sum means to add right here. The sum of 3 and 5 is 3 plus 5. Now look at section B right here. These words indicate subtraction, decrease, difference, less than, left, lower than, and minus. So if you have 16 decreased by 5, that means 16 minus 5. But look at 11, 12, and 13. These are some special examples for subtraction. These you have to flip around and write the opposite. Jose completed 2 laps less than Mike's 9. You would write it as 9 minus 2. Raid sold 15 out of 35 tickets, 35 minus 15. How many did he have left? This month's rainfall is 2 lower than and last month's rainfall of 8 inches. You'd write it as 8 minus 2. And then, of course, if you have 15 minus 6, you would just write it as 15 minus 6. Now, look at section C. These words indicate multiplication. Double, which means 2. Half is 1/2. Product means multiplication. Times triple. Triple is talking about 3, and twice is talking about 2. So here's some examples. Her $1,000 profit doubled in a month. So here to write 1,000 times 2. So you can read through these examples right here and it will tell you exactly how to write it. Now these words indicate division and divide into, by, or among, or quotient. And you would write this, look at this example, the group of 70 divided into 10 teams. You would say 10 divided by 10, 70 divided by 10, or write it as a fraction 70 over 10. And like I said, these are the most common words that you would find. There are some additional words that you would use in a verbal description, which are represented by the equal sign. If you see the words equal, of course it means equal. Is equal to, or you would may see it as is the same as. So these all do indicate whether you're supposed to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Now look at these two examples right here. The difference of 9 in the square of a number. If it's the square of a number, it's talking about x squared. So if you see this, you would write it as 9 minus x squared. The difference of 9 and x squared is 9 minus x squared. Twice the cube of a number is the number of, the cube of a number is talking about 3. So twice is talking about 2, and you would write it as 2x cubed. So these are just some of the examples. Now, look at the examples of when we're actually translating it. So look at number 1. You see the sum in sum, remember, means to add. So when I look at this, 14 and a number, and I'm going to actually write on top of this. And you would see that 14 and a number, and you see the word is equal to 17. So this is your answer right here. And you would write that. Now look at number 2. You've got a number increase. Increase means to add. So we're going to have x for the number. X plus, which is talking about a number increase by 10 is 114. So we're going to put x plus 10 equals 114. And this is how you would write it out as an equation. Look at examples 3. The difference. Difference means to subtract. The difference between a number and 12 is 20. So we have x minus 12 equals 20. And this number, this word and right here, you have to be careful. Most of the time it does mean to subtract, but sometimes right here, if it says difference, then you would write it with a minus instead of a plus. Now look at number 4. You have 10 times the sum. Now, this is going to get a little bit more complicated. So you have the word 10, and it's going to be times. So I'm going to put a multiplication symbol. So I'll have 10 right here, and then it says the sum of 1/2 and 1/2 a number. So and 6 is 8. So I would write that as 10, and then you're going to have 1/2 of a number, and 6 equals to 8. So this one gets a little bit more complicated. So you're going to have 10 parentheses 1/2 x plus 6 parentheses equals to 8. So sometimes they do get a little bit more complicated. Look at number 5. Tammy wants to raise $175 for a school fundraiser. She has raised $120 so far. How much more does she need to reach the goal? So we're going to put 120 plus your x, because she's already raised $120. Now she wants to raise X amount of dollars. So in order to solve it, you would just solve it just like you would in an equation. And as you can see, X equals to $55. She still has $55 to raise in order to reach her goal. Now look at number 6. Number 6, Tina's saving to buy a notebook computer. She has 2 options. So the first option you see right here is to put away $200 initially, which means to begin with, she's going to put $200 away and save $10 every month. So this right here goes all together. This is the left-hand side of the equation. So you see that you have $200 that you have initially saved, and then you're going to save $10 every month after that. Then you have the second set part of the equation. So she has on this one, second option is to put away $100 initially and save $30 for every month after that. So we're going to put 30x right here. And I'm going to go ahead and put a plus on the word and right here. Now we're just going to solve it just like we would any equation. So as you can see, I've already started working this out. We're going to take the 30x and move it to the left-hand side. I want my variable on the left-hand side. So we're going to have right here, and when I wrote this, it should be a minus right here for a negative. And you see that you have a negative 20x equals to 100. And then you're going to say minus 200, minus 200. This cancels out. I have a negative 20x equals to a negative 100. Now divide that by negative 20 on both sides. And you see that you have x equals to 5. Now, so we would like to say, well, after 5 months, how much will she have saved in each one of these options? So we're going to figure that out. So we're going to substitute the 5 back into each side of the equation and see what it equals to. And it should be exactly what equal, because it's an equation. So once we substitute 5 back into each side of the equation, you see that in 5 months you will have raised $250 on each option. So whichever one she chooses, at 5 months they will be exactly the same at $250. Now look at page 2. On page 2, you see that you have another example that I've already found for you right here. You're going to use x as an unknown number and write this statement below as an equation. So you see the sum of twice a number in 5 is equal to the sum of the number in 2. So when you translate this and use an x as the unknown number, twice a number is 2x, plus is plus, 5 is 5, is equal to is equal. The number is, you're going to put x, plus is plus, and then 2. And when you write it out, it's going to be 2x plus 5 equals x plus 2. Now, when you solve it right here, you'll come up with x minus 3. So here's another example how to solve a contextual word problem. So now looking at number 7, the sum of twice a number in 7 is equal to the sum of the number in 4. So remember, twice means 2. So we have twice the number and 7 is equal to the sum means to add, the number plus 4. So when we look at this right here, you see that of your choices, that B is the correct choice. Then look at number 8. On number 8, you've got the product. Product means to multiply of a number, and 1/6. And the sum of a number and -18. What is the number? So when I write this out right here, product means to multiply. So I have x and 1 times 1/6 equals to the sum of a number x plus a -18. Now I'm going to rewrite this and put my 1/6 in front of the x, because x times 1/6 is 1/6x equals to x. Now when you have a plus times a times a negative right here, that means to a positive times a negative will give you a negative. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to x minus 18. Now we're going to solve this just like we would in an equation. We're going to get rid of the denominator, which is 6, and we're going to multiply all the way across here. So 6 times 1 is 6, divided by 6 will give you 1. Or you could say this cancels out and I have 1x equals to 6x, because there's understood to be a 1 right here. 6 times 1 is 6x. And then 18 times 6 will give you 108. Now, as before, we're going to, and I'm going to correct this right here. You're going to, as before, you're going to go ahead and you're going to work this out just like you would in an equation. So I have a positive 6, and that becomes a -6. So a -6x on each side, and that will give you a -5x equals to -108. So when I divide both sides by -5 by the coefficient of the variable, and I will come up with x equals to a positive 21.6, or you may see it as x equals to 108 divided by 5. Either way is perfectly fine. Now, look at example number 9. You've got the sum. When we're looking at this, you have the sum, which means to add right here, of 7 times a number. So I'm going to put multiplication symbols right here, times a number, and 7 is equal to 6 times, here's the multiplication symbol for times, a number. So I'm going to write that out and solve it. So I'm going to say 7x, 7 times a number, and 7 equals to 6 times a number right here. Now we're going to solve it just like we would any equation. So I'm going to say the opposite of a positive 7x is a negative 7x, so this cancels out. So I have 7 equals to a -1x, because 6 minus 7 is a -1, but remember, you can never, ever have a negative variable for a final answer. So I'm going to divide both sides by -1, and 7 divided by -1 is a -7. So my answer is -7 right here. So make sure that all of your notes are the same right here. Make sure that you have all of these notes. And now glue it into your interactive notebook.